familiar feeling is starting to come over me right now. We could be seeing yet another one of those epic Cinderella runs. That's what made hockey so great. Those crazy Cinderella runs from teams you didn't expect to get past round one, yet they somehow go far. I've seen quite a few of them. I have seen quite a few of them. Three of my favorites. Actually, four of my favorites. Four of my favorites were in chronological order. Of course, the Mighty Ducks. This is 20 years ago. This is the 20th anniversary. The Mighty Ducks. We all remember this. The Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. I think they were the seventh seed in the West, and they swept a Red Wings team who was looking to repeat. And they beat the Dallas Stars, who were top seeded, and they dominated the Minnesota Wild, and came within one win of winning their first Stanley Cup. We all remember that year. Of course, J.S. Jaguar won the Conn Smythe. Even though he was on the losing side, he was just too damn good in that run. And of course, 3 years later, the Oilers. They were the 8th seed in the Western Conference. And I think I remember they were one of the last. I think they were one of the last teams in. I think they were the last team in. I think they were like this close to being out. Yet they somehow make this big run and fall one win short of a cup. The Kings in 2012. Another 8th seed. They were like scratching and clawing. They ran into a Vancouver Canucks team that won the President's Trophy, was coming off on one win short of cup, and they were supposed to repeat. Instead, they only win one game in that first round, and the Kings turned it into a big run and ended up winning the thing. They were road warriors that whole stretch. I think they won 10 road games? Yet they clinched the cup at home. And I said 4. There's actually a 5th one I should mention. The Senators, the last playoff team. That was a crazy one because how'd they go? They beat Boston out in that first round. And they beat the Rangers out. They go all the way to the Eastern Conference Final, Game 7 against the defending champion Penguins, double overtime. Sens were one right move away from advancing. Instead, they lost because of one shot. That's how overtime goes. And of course, 2 years ago, at the Canadiens. Now that to me, that was the best part. That was the best part of those two COVID affected seasons, was Montreal just surviving, because the Canadiens were basically the team of the COVID years. I mean, obviously they connect Tampa Bay to them because they won both years. But the true team of the COVID-affected seasons, the COVID-affected playoffs, was the Canadiens. Because we all know this. Mark Bergevin, the GM, his job was on the line. They were nowhere close to a playoff spot by the time the pause hit. Yet the playoffs were modified. And Montreal was in as the lowest seed. It was 12 teams making it for each conference. They were the 12th seed. They somehow beat Crosby out. And then they made a series out of it against Philly, who won the top seed, but they were out in 6. The following year, they decided, fuck it, let's just shock everybody. Worst team in the playoffs by far, yet they come back against Toronto, sweep Winnipeg, and beat Vegas before losing to Tampa Bay. They won 13 games in a playoff run where Montreal wasn't supposed to win one game. Remember, also a Canadian team wasn't supposed to make it. Because remember, this is back when the divisions were localized. Because remember, the Canadian division sucked. There's no good teams in it. And even if and of course, a Canadian team was automatically going to be in round 3. They'll get killed by the American team in round 3. Well, they were half right. They didn't get killed by they did get killed by they did get killed by an American team in the playoffs, but it was in round 4, not 3. Why am I mentioning these teams? Because I think we're seeing the same thing here with the Panthers. I wonder if they heard me just dogging them. I wonder if they heard me just dogging them after they beat Boston. Because I kept saying the Panthers are a glorified AHL team. This team is not good, and statistically they weren't. Statistically they weren't. Kachuk was leading the team by a lot. It wasn't even close. I think he had 100 points. Second player of the team had 80. It was a big gap. And I saw those stats. I go, this team's fucked up. This was a far cry from the team that won the President's Trophy last year. They really shouldn't have been in the playoffs, but it's because the Penguins collapsed at the end that Florida and the Islanders, for that matter, made it. Now that's crazy. It's usually those teams who had no chance of making it and shouldn't have been in that take that and just run wild with it because there's no expectations. And boy, did they. I mean, they came back from 3-1 against Boston, okay? And then there was the series against Toronto. We all heard Leaf fans, we won Florida, and they got them and it bit them in the ass. And now, the Panthers are 6 wins away from Stanley Cup. Game 2 went to overtime. However, they didn't need 4 periods. They didn't even need 2 minutes. It was $151, and Kachuk again put this in. He has 3 overtime goals in this year's playoffs. Florida is 6-0. 6-0 in overtime in this year's playoffs, and 5 of those wins were on the road. And that includes 2 in Boston. And 2 in Raleigh, which sandwiched the one in Toronto that got them to round 3. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous what this team is doing. This team was supposed to be dead. This team was supposed to be dead in early April. But here it is, almost a week away from Memorial Day weekend. And they're still playing, and we could see this team in June. We can also see this team hoist the cup. You know how I can just imagine the anger. I would say salt, but salt is like bitterness because a team they didn't think would be better than them was better than them. This wouldn't be salt. It would be just flat out anger. I could just imagine the anger from Calgary Flames fans because for all intents and purposes, he still should be a Calgary Flame. I've read about how that deal went down. It was complete buffoonery. It was complete botchery. They just completely fucked this up. They fucked this up. He should still be a Flame. Instead, they ended up losing 2/3 of that top line because Gaudreau left on his own and signed that big deal with Columbus. So that turned into a disaster because Columbus all of a sudden just sucked. But they'll get a good draft pick out of it. They got the number 3 pick in the draft, so that's good. But anyway, Kachuk is in the playoffs for the Panthers, just tearing it up. 3 overtime goals. It's... oh, boy. I don't know what the hell the Panthers are trying to pull, but it looks like they're going to pull it off. I mean, can Vegas and Dallas really beat this team? I really don't know. I mean, both West teams, I know I'm getting ahead, both West teams seem to be teams of destiny. Thing is, so is Florida. You know, they got tired of the whole couldn't win a series rap like Toronto got tired of it. And they did something about that last year. But they're compounding that with this run. And it's just crazy. They are 2 wins away. They're 2 wins away from reaching the Stanley Cup final for the second time in franchise history and the first time since their crazy run in '96. And I don't know. It does look like if they get to the final, they might win it. I mean, it won't be the fault of the West winner for choking. It would just be Florida just, I don't know, being on a whole other gear. I mean, it's ridiculous. They pulled this off against a Carolina team that was also supposed to be a team of destiny, but just like the NBA's Boston Celtics, they seem to be in a hole that nobody thought they would be in. And here's the thing, this is hockey. This happens in the NHL. But shit is happening that even surpasses NHL standards. And this is in the last, like, 4, 5, 6 years. I mean, it's just crazy what's going on with the Panthers. It kind of looks like they're going to win this whole thing. And right now, it kind of looks like it's between Kachuk and Bobrovsky for the Conn Smythe. Though, like I said, I'm getting ahead. I take this one game at a time, but it definitely looks like Florida could be celebrating in June. But that's another story. So, that's my recap of Game 2. It was a great game, a close game, a low-scoring game, but Florida takes it, and they go home up 2-0, just like against Toronto. Will Carolina rebound? Well, we'll find out. But as for tomorrow, it's Game 2 in the West between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Dallas Stars in Vegas. Vegas is up 1-0, and that game's coming on early. 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. So just under 15 hours. And of course, Game 3 in the Eastern Conference Final, that's Monday, and it'll be in Sunrise with the Panthers up 2-0. If Florida wins Monday, that's it. It's over. It's done, because Carolina's not going to pull off a reverse sweep. My goodness. It is amazing what the Panthers are doing, and look, they might keep it up. So that's my recap of tonight's Game 2. If you like this video, click the like button, click subscribe if you want more, and I'll be back tomorrow with a recap of Game 2 in the West. So stay tuned.